host for this session. It's an honor to introduce our distinguished speaker, John, who will be sharing his expertise and insight with us. John has an extensive experience in process planning and implementation, and we are fortunate to have him with us today. Without further ado, let's begin. John, the floor is yours. Hello, John. Hello, John. Can you hear me? Hello, John.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, the floor is yours.
Okay. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. My name is John. I'll be facilitating today's session on process planning and implementation. This is the objective of the course. It is for us to understand the process planning process, understand the process implementation process, as well as the monitoring and improvement of process planning. Now, why is process planning so important to us as individual or as an organization? Process planning is a primary important part of every organization or even every aspect of our daily lives. Now, if you look at it, let's look at it this way. Everything we do as an activity, everything we do as an activity has to follow a pattern of, and that pattern is called process. Now, even cooking right at home or doing any activity, going out, driving our cars and all the rest, all these are activities that has to be tailored or patterned to a particular purpose towards achieving a goal. Driving safety and all the rest, all of them follow a particular pattern. So process planning involves determining the most efficient sequence of operations and resources required to transform raw materials, activities into final product or services. Now, it encompasses selecting tools, setting parameters, and establishing workflow to optimize operations. Now, so in process planning, like I said, it cuts across every sphere of life, and it is important to us as individual as well as an organization. Now, if a process is not properly set up and properly documented, one will be created, possibly a verbal process. Now, this verbal process or documented process we either make or mar, that is, it will make good impact or negative impact on the organization. So as an organization, it is important that we deliberately plan it like an intentional plan to make sure that something is done so that people can actually know or understand a pattern to be followed in the organization. So importance of process is that one, it can help us to reduce costs. Like I said, if a process is documented, and well planned, it means you understand the cost incurred in those processes. Now, let me give you an example. Every process has its own cost. If you pick HR recruitment process, it has a cost. If you pick, let's say marketing, online marketing, it has a cost. Now, you know this cost, and because you are planning, you're able to project the cost and plan ahead of time. And planning ahead of time enable you to understand what it will cost you, to know if you're able to afford it, or maybe you have to make some adjustment as to which particular aspect of the, let's say, social media advert you want to take, or what advert you want to place concerning your recruitment. You're able to know this, and you're able to manage and reduce the cost involved in the process. It enables you to also enhance, it enhances productivity a proper process planning enable you to to be productive as an organization. A productive organization is the one that is able to manage and ensure that it's able to achieve this objective at the end of the day. Now, which is a set objective for a particular process must be achievable, and you're able to achieve it. That means productivity is enhanced. You're able to use the raw material, the human resources, and every resource is required to deliver the process as when due and use it productively. That's productivity. It ensures consistent quality. A process well documented, well planned, enable consistency in the system. Now, when I mean consistency, if I have to follow a particular step, ABC, to do a particular thing, and it's documented and everybody understands it, that means all of us will follow ABC. And if you do the same thing the same way, you get the same result. So a properly documented process will enable consistency in quality. Now, but if let's say two individuals in the organization follow two different processes, you achieve two different results. And that is why process planning is important and key towards ensuring consistent quality. It minimizes operations time. Now, turnaround time in organization is one of the key problems every organization has to cope with as an organization. And if process is not properly planned, you can, I can bet you that you always come up with different timing. Now, you give a customer, let's assume as consultant, you have a project timeline, which is to deliver in 4 months. Let's say ISO implementation. At the end of the 4 months, you may not be able to achieve it if you are if you've not planned the process adequately. Because in process planning, just like project planning, which comes out of that is, which is also a process. If it is not properly done, you always come up with different timing. That means you can deliver in customer A 4 months, in customer B 3 months, in customer A, C, with, let's assume they have the same number of staff, the same complexity of system or process. Now, but you can get consistent and minimize operational time and the project time by making sure that you plan the process adequately, the process involved in the implementation process of those activities. It enables you to manage resources effectively. Resources include human material, time, and all the rest. Now, when you plan the process very well, you know one, the necessary input in the process. You know the necessary input in terms of human and asset or facilities or equipment. And because you know them, you're able to plan them adequately and bring them in as when there's a concept. Hello, Nora, please can you mute yourself, please? Now, there's a particular process which, like I said, I think administration should mute some people. There's distraction in the platform. Now, better resource management is enhanced by proper process planning, because you already know when a particular resources have to come into play, which they need to play in the implementation process, and they come in to play such role as required or when due. This is very important in that. Now, it also helps you to reduce waste. There are different forms of waste, logistics waste, inventory, and all the rest. All these are, including time and money and human resources, among others, can be reduced by proper process planning. It increases overall efficiency of the operation process. The overall efficiency is also enhanced by planning the process. Now, this example of a process plan, a process flow chart, which talks about various things. Now, why do we need a process flow chart in an organization or in a particular process? Why documented procedures are very important to manage a flow of operation. A process diagram enables you to see in clear terms and very easily understandable how that process has to be carried out. It also helps you to understand where there are errors in your system. Let's give an instance like this. This is an example of a process. If I say, okay, create requisition, the manager approve. Where you have two levels of or duplication of approval, you know already that process has a problem. Now, two-level approval is not bad, but where two-level of approval is like a duplicated effort, it is creating a barrier or hindrance to reduction in time, which is let's say goal of every process. Now, likewise, another area where problem arises in processes is in the area of decision. Even if you are using electronic decision-making devices in making this, you need to also find a time to look, review this and see where the decision is. Now, let me give you an instance. If there's a device that needs to actually shut a particular item, to shut it down, well, let's use an example of electric kettle. When you are boiling the water and the water is boiled to 100 degrees centigrade, the electric kettle is supposed to shut down. That is a decision making, which is it hot? Yes, it's hot enough, it shuts down. But where that does not happen, and the person that has plugged the kettle is not around, the kettle will burn and it can lead to even burning the house. Now, that's a decision. Now, the question is it hot enough? Somebody has to make that decision. Somebody has to be able to decide when it is hot enough, if that decision is made manually. But if it is made electronically, you should be able to test through your reliability testing to confirm that that approval is only given when that particular parameter is achieved or attained. Now, these are some of the things that you get in when you are evaluating your process, because using a flowchart to evaluate a process will give you a broader view as to whether this is achievable or not. Now, moving forward, a case study in the 20th century, Toyota faced intensive competition and limited resources, prompting the company to develop more efficient production processes. The Toyota production system came into being, and because of this, they were able to transform the company from a small struggling organization into a world-leading automotive organization. And that's why we know today we celebrate the Toyota production system as celebrated globally. So this emphasizes the importance of process planning. A proper process planning will enable you to achieve all this as a goal. Common challenges of process planning. Now, one of the challenges of process planning is tracking. Now, even though these are being managed electronically nowadays with several systems, like if you have ERP, Enterprise Resource Program, or CRM for customer-related issues, you're able to track some information. But the challenge still remain tracking, because beside the system tracking it, the individuals involved, their deliberate commitment or willingness to track is also a problem, or a challenge in gathering data for process planning. Collecting data is another one. Collecting data in one location. Data in every organization or system, data resides in different processes. Data are available, massively available in different processes. But being able to collect and collate them in one location is really an issue. And that's why some organizations has deployed enterprise resource programs in which they're able to track and across board all this data. But the truth is also, there are some data that cannot, those devices may not be able to track because of the willingness of those having to input the information required. So, let me give you an instance. If I have a data or an information in my possession, my ability or willingness to actually make the data available on our ERP is important. And where I'm not willing, you cannot have such information. So that is why collecting data in one place is really an issue with respect to process planning. Handling changes. Now, changing the system or creating change or change management is a critical thing in the system also, because when you are planning process or you are trying to improve a process, you are creating a change management system. Now, creating change or managing change is a very difficult one, because individually, some people will decide, oh, I want to actually adopt this change, while there will be massive resistance from the others. Even though as an improvement professional, we always recommend that carrying people along through training, awareness, and all the rest will help you. But that's not to say it is totally devoid of those challenges, resistance from people. And so you need as a person, so so to manage this, you need to actually carry people along using these various techniques. Ensuring data transparency. Now, the data inputted in the system, ERP or otherwise, may be transparent, may have been tampered with. You know, even in statistics, there are some random percentage that you give to, I think they call it FALI or FACRA, in which, the data is totally deviating from what it should represent. Now, this normally happens also because of the bias of the person inputting the data. Now, test what if scenario. Now, ability to test what if is also a way by which you are able to improve. What if this happened? Like the instance of the kettle that I gave. What if the kettle refused to switch off when it should? Then when you ask some of those questions, what could now lead to it? We get to, okay, the risk that can come with those decisions not being properly made. Let me give you an instance. I read sometime in the past in which a medical team that were to actually pick out a syringe, the manufacturing syringe in an organization, a pharmaceutical organization. The team that will select the bad syringes from the good syringes do not understand properly what represents bad and what represents good. In the process, they cost the organization a lot of millions because they were separating those good syringes as bad syringes. Now, when the organization realized how many millions of dollars or pounds they've lost, they have to actually put them through proper training and then modeling, in which they actually show them and they give them sample of what is good and what is bad, and they're able to look at it. Now, by way of device manufacturing, some equipment are now actually endowed with such possibility of selecting what is good or bad. But what so many organizations are now doing is actually to put experienced people also in that category, to put back that equipment, maybe an equipment, a machine actually push up an equipment, push it out as bad. When they look at it critically and feel it is good, they will put it also in the line and see again. If you push it back the second time, they can now accept. Or when you are seeing doubt, you put it back the third time to confirm if it pushes it out. If it pushes it out the third time, you can now say, oh, okay, truly this is bad. Now, what they're doing there is a cost-saving methodology. Now, if our process is just basically allowing the machine to make the decision, we'll find that we may also be losing money. But when you put man to say, okay, look at it critically and put it back, you are actually reducing cost. Even though you pay that particular person, which is a cost, but the person may also be saving you a lot of cost, which is another one. So that means you are changing the process to now include human as a vet, as against leaving the machine to make the sole decision. So what if scenario will help you to make a very critical decision, but it's also because of the brainstorming effect and the requirement in terms of being tasking enough to task your brain and make such decision or ask such questions, it makes it as a challenge to process planning. Now, various tools are used for process improvement, like Six Sigma, lean manufacturing, value stream mapping, among others, so many, SWOT analysis, PDCA cycle, control chart, among others. We cannot cover all this in the course of this webinar, but we will talk about maybe one or two as the case may be. Role of technology. Technology is now playing a crucial and important role in making decisions, like in improving process. Like I said earlier, enterprise resource program enable you to actually plan process and then implement process, as well as monitor and track processes. Now, where most of the decisions are taken on the ICT platform ERP, you're able to actually get on-time or real-time information, because the information is easily available because all the decisions are taken online or on the network. But where decisions are taken and later inputted, it creates so many biases. And so, but what we normally recommend with with introducing technology into the system is that for you to introduce technology in the system, you must ensure that the technology you are bringing on board is actually conforming to your existing system. And that means your process must have been developed, implemented, or executed before you bring in any new ICT into the system. Now, quoting what Bill said that bringing in a system, an ICT system into a deplorable process would bring about or will magnify your inefficiencies. But bringing about a system into an effective system would magnify your efficiencies. Now, in essence, it means you must have documented and developed the processes before you bring on board any new, you introduce any ICT system into the system. Now, technology will help, but you must properly practice your system before bringing in ICT into the system. Best practices. There are several best practices that help also in process improvement. One of them is 9001 and all major international management system standards. So as practitioners, you understand what I'm talking about. Now, when you look at clause 4 of the system, it talks about building or developing the process and their interactions, which shows, okay, from their suppliers, the input, the process, the output to their customers, you're able to drive these interactions in the system. Now, clause 8 talks about how you now control those processes that you have developed, because you developed it in clause 4, I think it's 4.4, then in clause 8.1 and 8.2, you plan the control to make sure that those processes are achievable. This is what I mean by providing the necessary resources, in terms of equipment, competent personnel, quality equipment, quality practices, quality tools, among others, to make sure that things are done and then the process becomes achievable. Now, process planning process. These are, so we'll be following this process in this discussion. You set clear objective, you assess current performance, you develop improvement plan, you train and empower employees, and then you implement and monitor improvement, you sustain and scale success. Now, the key to starting this is you must have the big picture in mind, which is what are you looking at with your process improvement plan? What is the major goal? Now, once you have this idea of this is what I want to achieve with this process management, then you're able to say, okay, yes, okay, then we can go. Who do I invite? Who is strategic enough to be involved in this process planning or process improvement? Now, for you to achieve that, you must set clear and achievable objectives. Why must it be clear? It must be clear so that everybody in the system understands this process. Like I said, is when you develop a clear objective, you are able to know, okay, this is what this particular process is about to achieve. Now, for clarity, process may be any of the, like I said, all the activities that we carry out, and they represent processes. Now, there are processes within processes. Within HR, we have, let's say, recruitment process, payroll process, among others. In marketing or sales, we have marketing process, we have social media, possibly some organization social media process, we have sales process, among others, maybe physical presentation process. Based on the processes that is set up in the organization, you need to set goals for each of the process, making it to be specific, which is what, so that people can understand it clearly. It should be measurable. Otherwise, you will not be able to measure whether that process is achieving that objective set. Now, I cannot set objective and say, okay, I want to make sure I reduce, let's say, profit. Reduce profit is a goal, but it is not measurable until I'm able to put a specific value or percentages. Now, if I'm putting a percentage, it means it only becomes measurable if I have previous information of what has been achievable, which is if we made 1 million last year and I say, okay, my goal is to reduce or increase profit by 50%. I know because we made 1 million, I'm increasing by 50% means I want to make 1.5 million. That is a goal. It becomes measurable. Now, it must be attainable. So you cannot say, okay, as an organization, all your effort last year brought about 1 million. Now, this year, my goal is to make 100 million. That becomes unattainable because you are moving from very little to very high. That when you set a goal that is totally like out of reach of the organization, then you are just joking with the system. So setting an attainable goal makes it realistic that people can actually work or drive towards achieving that. Now, it should be relevant. Now, a goal can only be relevant, to what you, let's say I want to reduce cost. I say I want to reduce cost by 50%. It becomes relevant because I know that the process has been increasing cost, has been generating a cost, or it's a cost center in the organization. And we look at it as a cost center in the organization, we want to reduce that. And so that's why we are setting reduction as a goal. Now, it must be time bound. Within what period of time do I want to achieve this goal? So every goal must follow this SMART objective, which is basically you want to achieve within a time bound and all the rest. Now, this is an example of KPIs. Now, for every process, you must be able to set your KPI, which normally talks in terms of percentage or amount, which is number. Now, as an organization, you should be able to set this for every process. Now, let me use, let's say, recruitment process as an instance. We want to recruit people. Now, let's say within a year, we want to reduce error rate in recruitment, possibly because last year we have to recruit people and then we have to sack them immediately, maybe within 1 month, 3 months. Within the probation period, 50% of the people employed were sacked. Now, it's an indication that that process has problem. Our recruitment process has problem. When you identify that as a problem, then we have to set goal and review the process. Now, we have to set goal and say, okay, we want to reduce this error rate by 50%. Now, if you are setting such goal, the output of such goal should give you the same level of achievement, which is basically we have 50% in reduction in number of people that are sacked within probationary period. Now, where that is the case, we have achieved the goal. But where that is not the case, let's say 75% were, let's say 25% were still sacked. That means we have only been able to achieve 25% reduction in that. And what we can do is to still say, okay, what are the lessons learned from this? Because we only achieved 25% as against 50%. So KPI enable you to monitor whether you are actually achieving the goal set for a particular process. So using the example I've given, which is recruitment, even if it is sales also, we want to increase sales by 100%. Knowing fully well, the number of clients that we had last year were just 60. If we want to increase by 100%, that means we must have 120 at the end of the year. So it's easily monitorable, measurable at the end of the year. So you can easily monitor it and know that, okay, at the end of the year, do we have 120? Where we have less than 120, we are not achieving the goal. Where we have more than 120, we have exceeded our goal. And then we can know what to do also to continuously enjoy that improvement. Okay, now the next step is to assess the current process. Now, I normally say every process that creates an incident needs a lookout, needs you to look at it, or investigation or verification. And that is why, in most of the ISO standard, it talks about continuous improvement talks about you taking corrective action on incidents. Now, where a customer complaint is so high, that means that process that lead to that is an issue, as an issue. Where your production brings about defective product, defective output, there's need to improve the process. Where marketing is not meeting the target, marketing target is not met, that marketing process needs improvement. Now, these are some of the examples I can give in this case. Now, for you to do that, you need to analyze what are the SWOT analysis, the internal analysis, and the external analysis of that particular process. Pick the process in line and bring a team to actually review that particular process to ensure that, okay, these are the problems in this process. These are what the challenges in this process. How can we improve it and all the rest? So every process must go through such current assessment. You assess them. What are the issues surrounding this particular process? What are the weaknesses in the process? What are the strengths in the process? What are the opportunities in the process? What are the threats in the process? All these have to be assessed in order to be able to identify or understand that particular process and be able to identify what are the issues in the process to be able to form a strategy for that particular process. What strategy are you going to adopt to improve the process? That's why we come about with marketing strategy, sales strategy, human resource strategy, among others. So every strategy comes from a proper review of the existing system. This is an example of market marketing CPOC example, like the instance I mentioned earlier, when you are reviewing a process, I always encourage that teams should come gather, bring together with them the supplier to the system or the process, the process owner and the customer of the process. Now they're able to improve. Talk about how the input affect the process, how the output affect the process, and what are the outputs, and then how is the process itself affecting the whole system. Now, looking at that, they're able to come up with, okay, what can we do to improve the process? Because it's only when you look at the process itself down with the supplier is looking at it, our inputs is submitted to IT, campaign page develop, the view. So when supplier is looking at it and customer are looking at it, with you as the process owner, they're able to come up with suggestions on how to improve that particular process. So this is an example. So, but when you bring in suppliers, you're able to come up with best practice or improvement. And like I said, clause 4 of the standard talks about this, but there's additional to this that clause 4 of majority of the management system standard added, which is risk, because it talks about who are the suppliers, what input, what process, what output, what customer, and talks about the risk. What are the risks of that particular process? So if I put marketing as an example, who are the suppliers to our marketing? What input are they bringing? Or what input do I need in the process? What are the marketing process? What output should we generate? Who are the customers of this? And then what are the risks involved? That's what clause 4 is all about. What are the risks? Now, the idea behind the risk is when the risk assessment is done properly on a particular process, you're able to come up with proper or possible control to ensure that that process is effective and is able to achieve the task or the set objectives of that particular process. Moving forward, another methodology for reviewing process is called the failure mode effect analysis. You are looking at a particular process and looking at what are the potential failure. Looking at this like ATM PIN authentication, they said unauthorized access can actually happen, which is potential failure. And then the effect is that customer is not satisfied. You now look at what are the impact, which is severity. What will happen? What are the potential causes of this? Somebody loses his ATM or ATM is stolen. Then likelihood that will happen. Then the current process that you have as an organization, you block the process, you block the ATM. Then determination, which is the detection. Now, detection is one of the critical part of process review. Now, if a failure or an incident can happen and you cannot detect it, it makes the risk of that particular process higher than any other thing. Now, look at it now. For this one, is 4. It means the possibility of detection is still okay. I think it's okay because if you say over 10, I think because this example is over 10. Now, if it is 5, it's higher. But if it is like 8, it means the possibility of detecting is so low. And when it's so low, it makes the risk so. Let me give you an instance of gas, cooking gas. What I learned from experience, that cooking gas ordinarily has no odor, but they added the odor to make sure that, okay, people can actually detect it by smelling. Now, just imagine a gas or an odorless gas used in the household, and a 3-year-old kid put on the gas without anybody being informed, and it just smells like natural air. You can imagine how many explosions we'll be witnessing every day. Now, the odor was added to make sure that, okay, easily an adult that comes in can easily detect by smelling. So ease of detection is key in improving process. Now, let me give you an instance. If our financial process is not that, if I want to commit fraud, it cannot be easily detected. It means everybody can commit fraud in that system. And I can assure you such organization may not last more than 1 year. But if it is easy to detect, it's the fear of detection that will refrain people from stealing. So every process must have such detection thing, like the electric kettle, like I said earlier. The detection is that once it's hot, the decision is made and it will trigger it and it will switch off. That's detection. So it's easy to detect and it works. Now, the iron, let me give you an instance of iron too. When you put on a good iron, not talking of the one that is bad, when the iron is good and you put it on and you forget it, let's say, you will find out that after it gets hot to a level, it will trip off. So it will be cool again. So it can last for one day, even like that, and you meet it in that condition and switch it off later in the day. But you know, the as if question is that what about if it doesn't trigger off? Because of reliability testing, after some time, that ability, it will lose that ability and it can burn the whole house. So you find that, so once this is done, once you do a proper analysis of the process, you will know which one has a tendency to fail more and what you need to do about it. Like this example, cash not disbursed, dissatisfied customer. 7 is given to severity, that's the impact when it happens. Out of cash, that's the machine is out of cash. And then the occurrence is also 7. Now, the likelihood of occurrence can only happen where your system does not provide for you to actually monitor that, or the vulnerability in the system is so high. Now, when I mean vulnerability, it means the ability of the system is weak in terms of taking care of such risk, or it even create a bigger potential for that thing to happen. Let me give an instance. In a system in which you give key to the accountant who has access to the vote of the bank, and he has the key to the entrance, and is the sole person. You know that you just come out one day, the whole vote is empty. Now, what happened there is that that vulnerability is that, okay, he has access to everything. But because of distribution of access, you have reduced the vulnerability in the system. So vulnerability of the system make the likelihood very high in this case. And then that's why it's internal alert of the cash system. So that's the existing process they have. Then the detection is low. So because I think detection is high, that's 4. Then they need to, when you multiply this, it's high. So it's one of the things they must do. So what they need to do is start to increase the cash threshold limit of heavily used ATM to prevent out of cash instances. So this is just an example of also process improvement. Now, developing an improvement plan. After you have reviewed the process, you're able to come up with some information or feedback, weaknesses, the strength, opportunities, the challenges, the vulnerability in the system, the risk of the process. And based on this, you need to plan. Now, you need to plan, you need to identify the process that is now more problematic. Now, like I said, a process that generates more incidences should be focused on first. And once you recognize that, you need to analyze and identify the problem in that particular process. There's different tools that you can use, the Ishikawa diagram, the 5 whys, among others. You can use some of these to actually get what is the problem, which is taking the corrective action. You now redesign the process. When you redesign the process, which may involve even bringing in an ICT or any other thing as part of the improvement, you may need to assign, roles and responsibility and make sure people come and achieve it. Now, so you set implementation plan, which include what should be done, who should do it, when should the person do it, and when are you monitoring, what will give you, what would be the cue for you to understand if that is being done or not. That is, you know, like you set a KPI, then you're able to monitor within a particular time period. What is the time period for it to be done? Now, that is when you can say you are implementing the improvement that has been set in the process. Then you need to communicate and train people. Like I said, once you assign roles and responsibilities, you need to train them, you need to create awareness, you need to communicate. Now, these 3 things, that's why all the standards have them as one of the requirements: communication, awareness, and training. There are certain level of people that need to be trained. The process designer, the process owners need to be trained to understand their processes. Others need to be aware of the processes, while others just need to know, which is on need-to-know basis, you need to communicate. Then you need to monitor and review the process. Monitoring, like I said, tracking, which is like the example we gave earlier, using a tracker to track it, gathering data, gathering information for you to make informed decisions about the process that has been developed is also key. Now, requirement for successful process implementation, you need people, you need strategy, which is what about when you have done the proper SWOT analysis, you come up with strategy, because any decision, or you have done risk of the process, or all the other methodology we have highlighted earlier, you're able to come up with decisions or strategy on what to do. You may need to introduce assets, maybe new equipment may need to be purchased to improve the process. maybe new competence may need to be acquired, like training people to get it done, new tools, and then the process improvement. All of them combined to bring about a successful process implementation, because we need to do all these three. So tactics, people, process, that's the key thing. And then, but like I said, in the subset are the asset, which is equipment and all the rest, techniques or technology. Techniques could just be like an idea or knowledge of how to do a particular activities, or tools, equipment that need to be done. Like I said, suitable equipment, suitable facility, and the suitable tool will constitute suitable input. Now, a process function based also on input, because if you bring wrong input into a right process, you will get a wrong output. If you bring right input into wrong process, you will also still get wrong output. So they must all be correct. You must bring the right input into the right process to get the right output. And that is what that is all about. Resource allocation, you need to allocate your team and train them to be able to perform effectively with respect to this process. Like I said, every process improvement is a change management. You are changing a particular process, even if it is just removing an aspect of the process. Maybe you remove an activity, or you remove a decision-making activity in the process. You have changed that particular process. So adoption, communication, awareness, and all of them have to be done so people understand the process, the new process you have created, and desist from following the old one. And that is why document control is important in most of the standards, because it talks about you controlling that particular process so that people that do not need it do not have access to it, and they always have access to the updated version of your process. It is key and important. Like I said, okay, so assign roles and responsibilities. That's where you can say you are implementing a process. When you assign roles and responsibilities, you are sharing, you are making people understand what they need to do, the role they need to play, and how they monitor and ensure the process is compliant. Now, my ideal is this: anything you want done must be assigned to somebody. Where you fail to assign it, the process will slow down, the process will not achieve the set objective, and you cannot achieve much in it. You need to set somebody make somebody responsible for it, and that person needs to be monitored. That person has to have a KPI. That person needs to be monitored and reviewed as when due, based on your set objective. Now, monitoring and tracking. Just like the PDCA cycle, a process that is not monitored or tracked is like play. If you cannot measure it, you cannot manage it. Now, if you cannot track it or monitor it, there's no way you can say, okay, we are improving it. So proper tracking enables you to get information. So this is an example of a tracking, on an internet. Let's say we place an advert and we want to check how effective our website is. Now, because some people also, some people don't take cognizance of that, although depending on your activity. But as a consultant, I check this on our website. Like you check, let's say the average session duration of people spending on it. You place an advert on the, let's say Google. Google will give you a statistics of how many visitors, how long do they spend on your website. Now, once you get that, and it will also give you an idea which of your pages are not well crawled. When it is not web crawled, people leave it very easily. You can imagine you attracted people by paying. They come on your website and they just look through and they just rush away because it's not attractive or it's slow. Now, when it's slow, let me they click a page and it's moving, and it's taking 5 seconds. The attention of everybody is busy. And you are not the sole person presenting this activity or these services. And because they are looking in different places, it's even distraction. They will be distracted and they forget about you. So they may spend, like this one that's 94 seconds. So in essence, 1 minute and 34 seconds is what is spent online on this page. And that's the average time that is spent, average. So on the average, people spend 94 seconds on your web page. Now you can set this as a goal, try to do something on your web page, increase the speed of your web page, maybe by increasing the hosting and all the rest, than the host space, by making sure maybe you have, you remove cache. I'm just saying some other things, although the experts will understand this and they will, so you remove cache and all those things. It improves the speed. Then you can now check it maybe after a month or after a week to see what is it, after placing the same advert, to check what is the average spend time on your website. And at times, even conversion rate is also considered. I think this is like 10% conversion rate, go conversion, which means when they come, they check and they leave. Nothing is done. That means no conversion. So if you have 1,853,000 views and you have 10% of them, only 1,000 actually maybe still look further or they fill your form. And that's why some people talk about funnel building or landing page, among others. Because when you have those ones, they help you to convert easily or fastly. Now, there are some also there are some other lead generation devices that once, you infuse on your website, they help you get the contact details of those people checking your website so you can follow up later. Now, you see that because of this 10% information, 10% go conversion, I may have to buy those lead generation software to make sure that when people, even these 1,000 people that visit, I can get at least on average, maybe 500,000 emails of those people as they are checking. The lead generation device is getting their email for me so I can follow them up later. Now, these are what monitoring will do for you. They give you information, on-time information, and you're able to take important decisions as the case may be. Now, the feedback you get from your review, from auditing the system, from monitoring the system, from tracking the system, from reviewing incidents, from taking corrective action, will enable you to know what you need to do about the process or the system. Whether you need to review the process further, whether you need to, there are some processes that have duplication of roles, whether you need to cut duplication of role, whether you need to improve decision-making by further training of the personnel making decision on that, because if the process is causing you more defect than it should, then there may be need for improvement, let's say purchasing a new equipment or improving your maintenance cycle. Possibly you are not maintaining very properly. That's why it's costing that. So when you review this, you are able to improve the system and improve the process. This is what that does following the PDCA cycle. So everything we have talked about, process planning, implementation, training the team, and then monitoring, all of them follow the PDCA cycle. So we need to, as an organization, plan our processes and improve our processes in order to achieve the desired objective of the organization. With this, I come to the end of the presentation. If you have any question, you can ask, or suggestion you can make at the end of this. Thank you for your time. Gift, I'm done. You can take over.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Please, this time for questions, contributions. Yes, let's have your questions. Hello, everyone. We're still expecting your questions. Hello, John.
Hello. Hello, Gift.
Hello, John.
Hello. Yes.
Yeah, the question here from Lambert. He said, would you recommend a separate unit within a department to do process planning?
Okay. My answer to that, if the process planning is about that particular unit, I think it is okay for them. But if the process is not their own process, it is not recommended. But if it is just, I mean, if it is total organizational processes, then you may have to select a committee or the project champion, because process planning also has to do with it's a project on its own that you need to designate people to be responsible for, so they can actually solve or resolve the issue or challenges faced by the process. I hope I've been able to address that, or some other persons can also give suggestions or idea on this. Thank you.
Do we have anyone that would like to contribute or give suggestion based on the question that Lambert asked? Hello, can you all hear me?
Yeah, morning, we are.
All right. Okay, thank you. Thank you all for your participation. Thank you. Okay, there's another question. Yes, the presentation will be sent Dixstars, the slide, the recording will be sent to everyone. All right, in the absence of no any other questions, I'm gonna say thank you for your participation. Thank you for making time for the webinar. Thank you all. Thank you, John. We appreciate your presentation. Thank you. It was a very interesting one and straightforward. Thank you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure making the presentation. I thank you all for your time, and I wish you all the best. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you all. Can now log out. Thank you.
Thank you.